Hello and welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Show. I'm your host, Corey Sievers, and congratulations for spending a bit of time with us here in the Savvy Team Wellness community. On this particular session, we're going to be delving into some important topics really about whether you're running on empty and the importance of nutrition and optimizing the nutrients that your body has access to. So all that, plus we'll be talking about the safety of complementary medicine and your most valuable asset. All here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. So again, congratulations for being with us. Look, if it's your first time here, then congratulations for joining us on this journey. And if you're a regular attendee, it's sort of like jumping on an airplane, isn't it? If you're here with us, if you're flying with us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us for another journey, then congratulations and thank you for flying with us. Well, a wellness journey is somewhat like that. You may be continuing your journey, and this may be taking a little bit of a different track off to a different destination, or you may be just beginning your journey. It might be your first time thinking about taking control of your health and wellness, really. And so wherever you find yourself, then look, we can help. We're here to help you to find your highest level of health and lifestyle. So thank you for flying with us. So look, congratulations for being here. Let us know any comments and questions as we go through the show, and do give me a wave so that I can see that you are here, and let me know where you're coming in from too. Such an important topic that we're dealing with in this particular show. So are you running on empty? Are you running on empty? That is what we're dealing with here on the show. So look, if you're new to what we do here in the Savvy Team, we help you enjoy improved health and lifestyle. So we like to say, if you can tell us what you want, we can show you how to achieve it. So when you connect in with our community, you'll have access to step-by-step action plans, innovative solutions, and all the guidance and support that you need to reach a high level of wellness and live life to the full, really. And here are just a glimpse of some of our wellness plans and action plans, programs to help you to really tackle some of those issues that you may be facing related to your health and well-being. And look, what's really important to understand is, as I'll go through this particular session, I'll explain to you the difference in our thinking compared to perhaps what you've come across from the typical medical sort of thinking. So even though we have things such as our joint mobility action plan and better digestion and gut health and detox and weight management, all that sort of thing, the approach that we have that's different here in our wellness community is that we aren't looking to solve the issue. We're not attacking the issue. We're not treating an issue. We're not treating a disease. We're not treating a condition. We are actually looking to optimize the health and well-being of the body so that it eliminates the condition. It's a very different, a more holistic approach. So far from treating disease, which is what we assert that medicine does, and that's great that they can do that. If you let yourself go and you don't take personal control of your well-being, it's great to have modern emergency-based medicine that can put us back on track when we let ourselves go. But, really modern medicine is not doing a particularly good job with chronic degenerative diseases. Let's face it, that's really in your hands. So it's great to have someone there to catch you when you fall, but you've got to be steady on your feet, we could say. So we're here in the Savvy Team, we're all about helping you be steady on your feet rather than saving you when you fall. And so it's good to have both sides of it. And that's why we call it a complementary approach. So we're here to guide you to that higher level of health and lifestyle. And so, sometimes it may seem, and certainly when we're talking about this particular session, it may almost appear as though we're, and especially me, perhaps talking in a negative sense about our medical system, but I'm very grateful for our medical system, and I think that's a very powerful system. Many countries around the world, many parts of the world, don't have the sorts of systems that we have in this region, and in probably the region that you're coming in from too, in the developed countries. But we, at the same time, that's great to have a system to save us. It's not the same system because it's a different paradigm. It's not the same system that will optimize your well-being. Okay, so, and that's why I truly do congratulate you for joining us here in this journey today, because it proves to me that you are willing to self-educate and learn more about wellness. And that is such a powerful thing. When you put yourself in the driver's seat, you will then start to you'll then start to see the incredible results that can happen. So we are here to inspire you, to motivate, and to guide you. So really to inspire you by highlighting your power to transform your own health and inviting you to be part of the change and our supportive community, as I've just mentioned. To motivate you by sharing examples of how other members of the community are already progressing towards a high level of health and lifestyle. And to encourage you to begin your own personal journey. To guide you by providing action plans, programs, guidance, mentorship, and access to specific solutions that can assist you in achieving your family's health and lifestyle goals. So we're so excited here with what we can provide you already. But here in the Savvy team, we're on a mission to we're really in the process of putting together a fully integrated holistic wellness and disease prevention support structure and system. So, when you partner with us on your wellness journey, it's like you've got it done. Let's do it together. Let's optimize each other's health and well-being together. So, together everyone achieves miracles. That's the acronym of team. And so, you're in the right place, and a big congratulations here for joining us here. All right. So important that you know that when we're talking about health and wellness, that any information that I'm sharing reflects my personal research and experience and is for educational purposes only, so should not be seen as medical advice, and it is not intended to replace medical advice. The information is general in nature, and therefore all of your individual health concerns have not been taken into account, so any comments and experiences should not be interpreted as medical advice or therapeutic claims. If you have any question as to the appropriateness of the information with regards to your own health, discuss this with your healthcare provider. That being said, as I've already mentioned, most of the times your healthcare provider or doctor is in emergency type of medicine, damage control, as opposed to rejuvenative focus. And so therefore, to truly rejuvenate your body, you need to take self-responsibility for your own well-being and learn more on this topic and on complementary medicine in general. And so jump on the journey with us, because if you want to improve something about your health and wellness, then we can guide you there. And our programs are really for those whose most pressing needs are to get the results. They want to understand later, but they want the results now. But people who are ready to let go of all the typical dogma, the typical things that you've heard, or the typical things that you'll find on the first 10 pages of Google when you try to search for anything, and you're ready to let go of that and actually look at strategies at the forefront of research in terms of improving your health and lifestyle. So, what often happens is, how, the saying goes that we often share here is that you can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep reading the last one. And so this is sort of part of why we say, if you can tell us what you want, in other words, what's in your future, we can show you how to achieve it. Whereas if you tell us what you don't want, probably what's in your past, that doesn't help, because that means you're looking into your past, and you can't start the next chapter of your health and well-being, we could say, if you keep reading the diseases and the sickness that you've experienced in the past. So it's time to let go of that and focus on a different paradigm. And this is the thing we often have, people will say, so what have you got for insert medical condition? What have you got for insert issue? And it's a totally different philosophy, because what we're looking to do is really, if we can, find the root cause and correct that. And so then your body will rejuvenate, and then the issue will fall away by itself. It's very different to treating. So technically, we don't got nothing for that issue. So we actually have the things that your body's calling out for, and the issue was simply a warning sign, and your body your body asking for support. So we're here to help you support your body. We're here to support you in supporting your body. Anyway, sounds like a plan. So we want to talk about whether you are running on empty. Are you running on empty? Before we jump into that particular topic about where you may not be getting enough of the important nutrients for optimal health, and then we'll venture into, in the Wealthy and Wise session, we'll be talking about your most valuable asset and the safety of complementary medicine. So let's jump on into a bit of a fun facts session first of all, and we're going to delve into 12 points on minerals. Now you can find an article on the 12 points on minerals on our blog, the Healthy Wealthy Wise blog at savvy-team.com/HWW. Just search for minerals and you'll find 12 points on minerals. But we're dealing here with the fact that minerals, really trace minerals, just have such a dramatic effect across many aspects of the body. One of those things that we hear all the time, people are saying, I just don't seem to have any energy. And so you might feel like this poor fellow here, yep, my battery flat. So if you feel like that, like you feel like you run out of energy at the end of the day, you fall asleep on the lounge, you wake up and you're still tired and everything, you sort of get it with your smartphone. You can sort of see the battery running out and all that sort of thing. Have you ever thought, well, what powers you? Because you don't plug yourself in, and it's not really the food, because food doesn't power you as such. The power that you operate on is actually generated by these little, we could say little, they're not really batteries, but they're energy powerhouses, the mitochondria. And one of the primary things that we see is that people are depleted in minerals. Okay, they're depleted in the electrolytes. And so that's one of the primary things that we talk about. So I wanted to take you through trace minerals and the power of trace minerals and these 12 points. So the fun facts are really on the fact that trace minerals are the sparks of life, helping every cell of your body to function better. And so an interesting thing here is that my early mentor in the health and wellness space used to talk about this particular quote that from the US Senate document, that 99% of people are deficient in minerals, and that a marked deficiency in any one or more of these important minerals actually results in disease. So it's actually well known, and we're going to go through that and look at the fact, logically, that if we see that plants suffer from disease when they're depleted in minerals, isn't it also logical that we would suffer from disease if we're depleted in nutrients such as minerals? So these 12 points on minerals are sort of some fun facts, but they're also important facts as well. So let's take a look at them and... So, 99. So the first one is 99% of the people, according to the US Senate document, are deficient in minerals. So, yep, that means you. That means probably you, unless you do what we suggest and have a regular trace mineral supplement, then you're probably deficient. And so some of those weird things, getting tired too quickly, waking up not feeling refreshed, all sorts of little underlying things can be simply a deficiency in minerals. And in the modalities that I was trained in and working with this mentor that I worked with in my early 20s, what we saw is that people's healing would cease when their minerals burnt out, basically. And so we used processes such as acupressure and all these sorts of spinal manipulation and all sorts of things to help a body repair their energy flow. And what we saw is that they would sort of stop, their healing would stop until they got minerals. So the primary thing, originally my mentor found that just a fresh diet, a healthy diet, raw diet, lots of juices and all that sort of thing was ample for most people. And then he found that by the 60s and all that sort of thing, he needed to use trace mineral supplements to get the regeneration in people's bodies. Well, it hasn't got any better. in the last 50 odd 60 years. So, it's even more important. Supplementation is even more important. That's why trace mineral supplementation is the cornerstone of what we recommend here in the Savvy team. So number one point on these 12 points in minerals is that even according to the US Senate document back in 1936, they said that 99% of people are deficient in minerals. So that's pretty much everyone needs some supplementation. Number two, the body is equipped to chelate only a small amount of inorganic minerals from nature. So these are the rock type of minerals. The body requires minerals to come in the form from plants and animals that are already chelated and assimilated, packaged, we could say, for utilization in the body. And this is the problem when people go onto something, for example, a calcium supplement. A typical calcium supplement is often just an elemental mineral. It's not chelated. It's not in a natural form to be absorbed and utilized by the body. The same thing with many iron supplements. And so the downside of this is that you can be taking these supplements, not getting them in the biologically active form, and then ending up with excess problems. So problems of excess in certain minerals, because whenever you take one mineral in its isolated form, it can build up because it doesn't have the complement of other minerals for it to function in the body. And so that's another thing there. So the body is only equipped to chelate and utilize to absorb very small proportion of these inorganic or not non-chelated elemental types of minerals. So number three, the body must maintain an adequate mineral supply to maintain balance between the internal and external pressures on the body cells, so-called osmotic equilibrium. The state is maintained for normal cell function and continued youthful health. So we need all these trace minerals to maintain that natural fluid balance inside our tissues. Number four, all nutrients such as vitamins, proteins, enzymes, amino acids, carbohydrates, fats, sugars, oils, all of these things ultimately, and the cells of the body require minerals for activity. So all bodily processes depend on the action of minerals. So if you're depleted, that's where we can end up with endocrine imbalance and that sort of thing. So minerals, cornerstone of our supplemental regimes. So number five, trace chelated or colloidal or ionic minerals are more important in nutrition than vitamins, because vitamins can be synthesized by living matter, but minerals cannot. If it's not in the soil, it doesn't get into the plants and the animals. If it's not in the plants and the animals that you're eating, then it doesn't get into you. Okay, and so therefore, nourishing the soil, it's well known in the farming and, let's say, in the organic farming community, that we must nourish the soil for the plant to be healthy, then for us to be healthy. Unfortunately, even in organic farming, that's become, the organic means not using pesticides as such. It doesn't necessarily mean nourishing the soil. By the very nature of trying to execute on organic farming, you need to nourish the soil, because otherwise the plants are sick and will be destined to be eaten up by the diseases and pests. But that's a bit of a clue, isn't it? If the soil is strong, the plants are strong. So if the nutrients are strong for the plant is strong and resists disease. I wonder whether that might be the same for us. But this is the thing, we've ended up in this day and age being in the germ and disease theory that something goes wrong out there, and that and our body's just dumb and needs external support. Whereas all of the disease and symptoms and these sorts of things are, in essence, warning signs. Just like discoloration on a leaf is a warning sign of deficiency, any of the things that are showing up for us externally or in disease are warning signs of deficiency for us. So we need to then go back to the root cause and correct a deficiency. Many of those deficiencies are actually minerals. So number seven, minerals are the catalysts that make enzyme functions in the body possible. Chelated, colloidal, and ionic minerals combine with enzymes into an alkaline detoxifying agent, which neutralizes the byproducts of cells and any other toxic conditions in the body and prepares them for elimination. So minerals an ample supply of trace minerals helps us to detoxify. Number 8, hormonal secretion of the glands is dependent upon minerals being present. Number 9, the acid-alkaline balance in the tissues are controlled by minerals. And this is where many people believe that if you're too acidic, the body can actually leach minerals out of the bones to buffer the acidity, and then that leads to long-term osteoporosis. Well, wouldn't it be better to simply be getting ample minerals from our diet and from supplementation so that we don't need to leach calcium and other minerals from the bones? Because it's more than just calcium in the bones. It's a true representation of all the minerals that we've actually been consuming. So if you have just joined us, we are talking about trace minerals, the sparks of life, and some fun facts around that. So another one here, number 10. All elements work together as a collective whole. If there is a shortage of just one mineral in the balance, the entire bodily activity is thrown awry. A deficiency of one mineral may disrupt the entire chain of life, rendering other nutrients either useless or inefficient. And this is why the typical model of, you're deficient in calcium, let's give you calcium. You're deficient in potassium, let's give you potassium, actually then throws off all the rest of the body. So what we need is natural, full spectrum trace mineral supplementation along with a diet that's rich in some of those nutrients. And the typical food pyramid with an emphasis on grains, what most people are not aware of is that the grains not only are comparatively deficient in minerals compared to plant and animal food, but they also, especially the supposedly healthy whole grains, can restrict the absorption of even minerals in the other foods and supplements because of the what's called anti-nutrients in these grains. So most people are eating a grain-based diet. So not only are they not getting the full complement of nutrients as if they were eating a plant-rich and an animal food diet, but they're also potentially stripping out. So if this is you, you could be stripping out some of the minerals that you're even supplementing with. So again, that's why we have the Eat Savvy diet, where we encourage you to steer away from grains in most cases, because they're not advantageous to health. They don't provide anything that you can't get from other means in a better form and richer in nutrition. So that's what we're really looking to do, optimize the nutrition that you're getting from your diet. So, and this is one that I'm really wanting to, this next point is one that I'm going to maybe talk about a little bit later, maybe not, we'll see how we go. But the concept brought forth by French scientists concerning the biological mutation of the elements within the body makes it understandable as to why the body needs a broad range of colloidal and chelated minerals to maintain and regain good health. And one of these particular scientists is Louis Crevran. You'll be hard-pressed finding any of this sort of information in the typical Google search if you've never read the book. I even looked it up today, and to buy his book would be $1,000 on Amazon. I hope we've still got it in the library, $1,000, because and what he found in his research is that it's still debunked supposedly, but he did testing with different. I may talk about that later, but that the body can actually transmute certain elements in the body and actually create certain biological reactions in the body that have a beneficial effect. For example, his research showed that the reason that salt is so helpful in a hot climate is not because you're sweating it out, but because there's actually an endothermic cooling reaction that happens in the body as the body transmutes sodium into potassium. Now, that's supposedly debunked, but it's interesting that we see these sorts of things, that what we've seen is that people who find it very hard to deal with hot temperatures, when they begin mineral supplementation and healthy salt supplementation, suddenly they're not so hot anymore. Not always going, like sometimes there are some interesting things that go on that science supposedly debunks, but they still don't understand what really goes on. There's still things being discovered each and every day. And many of the things that some of the older cultures witnessed through observation but couldn't explain, science is now starting to explain. So I think we'll start to see more and more of that information coming out. But in the meantime, we just have to be like the original scientists, observe and test. And that's really why it's important for you to take self-responsibility, because you're observing and testing constantly, not just relying upon old, outdated information that's out there. So that was number 11. Anyway, number 12 is minerals are therefore justified as a dietary supplement, especially in these days when the content of fruits and vegetables are destroyed by the mineral content is destroyed by petrochemical fertilizers. Because another bit of a not so fun fact is that just like us, it's been now only recently really identified that much of the microbiome in us, the bacterial content in us, is actually converting and creating vitamins and nutrients that we then absorb from the foods and the fibers in our gut. So our bacteria are creating nutrients. Well, the same is true for the soil. There's bacteria in the soil which helps the roots of the, like a little bit of a biological process going on even around the root structures for the minerals to be absorbed and for nutrients to be created and absorbed by the plant. And this is all happening in the soil bacteria. And so when we hit the soil with a whole bunch of pesticides, it damages the soil microbiome, which therefore the plant is disadvantaged. And so then we need even more artificial fertilizers to go in. So soil is far more than just a medium to grow in. It's actually a living thing as well. So it's the same as our natural microbiome in essence. So, but what we've seen is mineral supplementation makes such a big difference. So we do have this an article on the blog called this. You'll see this particular image here, the trace minerals, the sparks of life. So you can do a search for minerals and read up on that. And you can also look at the 12 points on minerals. But remember, 99% of people are deficient in minerals, and a marked deficiency in any one or more of the important trace minerals actually results in disease. You may not even be sick. Technically, you may not be sick. You may simply be trace minerally deficient. So looking at our Savvy Quick Tip this week, sounds like it's likely to be around trace minerals, right? So trace minerals and water. Trace minerals and water is the quick tip. Get more trace minerals, drink more water. So good salt is a good start, right? So good salt is a good start. So lots of water, lots of fresh water, and maybe some good salt. So even if you're not yet supplementing with trace minerals as we suggest, and we use sources from the Nadarding Moor here in this region, which is a unique wetland area from Austria that's full of an amazing complement of trace minerals, and also from the Great Salt Lakes region. We use a source from there as well. So, but many people do supplement with like they use a lot of the Himalayan pink salt or some of the natural sea salts, and this is very good, very beneficial. So salt and water, and so that's the quick tip. Get more healthy salt and drink more water. And that is really what Dr. Batman Galege suggests. And in all of his books, Your Body's Many Cries for Water, Water and Salt, all of these sorts of things. And he said, just for an example, we're seeing pain and arthritis and all of these sorts of things be rampant today, along with a whole bunch of other disorders and whatever. But he said that it's a tragedy to not recognize that arthritis, low back pain, for example, are signs of dehydration in the joint cavities. So do you have low back pain? Do you have joint pains and discomfort and arthritis and general aches and pains? And so what Dr. Batman, as he's often known as, is to treat with painkillers, manipulation, acupuncture, and surgery, for example, will in time produce osteoarthritis. When the cartilage cells in the joints have eventually all died, it will produce deformity of the spine. It will produce crippling deformities of the limbs. And he believes that this is the thing. It's a tragedy not to realize that the aches and pains could be signs of incredible dehydration in the body. So chances are in this Western world, you're not drinking enough good, clean water, and you're probably not getting enough trace minerals. And all sorts of things could change there, because it does change the equilibrium, the osmotic equilibrium inside the cells, and the water balance, and all of this sort of thing that's going on inside your tissues. So, again, it's interesting that Dr. Batman Galija's work has sort of been debunked. I was just reading recently one of the Quackwatch type of sites. And I just think, I respect. The thing is that we are in a society where we can all have our opinion. And that's why I'm sharing opinions here. And so if you don't believe in the opinions and you want to go and work with whatever your doctor is suggesting, then that is terrific. But even your doctor is sharing an opinion. I believe that doctors have a responsibility, and practitioners have a responsibility to be even more educated than someone like myself. And, in many cases they are, but I mean up to date, so that they're not just giving their patients outdated information. Because this is the challenge, that there's so much that's done in research, and I don't have the time to keep up with absolutely everything, so I focus on my areas of interest, and I hope that every other practitioner and doctor also does that. But, when we think about this, Dr. Batman Galija's work has been debunked supposedly, yet what he's asserting is before you go and have surgeries and manipulation and all this sort of thing, just try drinking a bit extra water and getting some good salt into you. I mean, so in other words, first do no harm. It's a pretty good thing. Why not try that? And so again, with everything that we share in the Savvy team, it's non-threatening to your body. It's going to be beneficial. So it's complementary. So even if you still choose to have surgeries and go on medication, all that sort of thing, that's okay. The nutritional and holistic wellness philosophies can work alongside that in a complementary manner. So it's not fighting either or who wins and everything. Why don't we all be friends? So anyway, I find that interesting here's this medical site debunking the importance of water and salt, when if you go into hospital and you're sick and everything, what's the first thing that they're going to do in most cases? They're going to maybe even write it in if you think about it, or think about it at least. They're going to put you on a drip. What's that? Fluid and salt, basically. They're going to put you on a sodium chloride drip. So in other words, they're saying the first thing is you're probably dehydrated and deficient in a mineral. And and here's medical sites debunking Dr. Batman Galija's work when he says you need more water and you need more salt. Really? Really? Anyway, good books, by the way, to understand that. But I mean, the quick tip is just to get some good salt, salt your food to taste, drink more water. You're probably drinking too many fluids. Fluids are different to water. Juice, soft drink, tea, all that different to water. So more water and more good salt. So we really go into this in depth, the Are You Running on Empty side of things, in a free online class that we have on the blog and on the Facebook page, so you can look that up. And also, as I mentioned, this trace mineral article is on the blog. So are you running on empty? Let's jump into talking about this particular topic, about are you running on empty, and the fact that you may not be getting enough of the important nutrients for optimal health. And how can that manifest? Well, just like we talked about before, you could be feeling like, yep, my battery is flat. And how might that look? You might be feeling tired at work and falling asleep at work or falling asleep driving, for example, falling asleep when you shouldn't be falling asleep. You may not be dealing with the pressures of life. So mineral imbalance, for example, and nutrient imbalance can mean that you're more susceptible to stress. You may feel more foggy and forgetful and dozy and just not with it, or have more frequent aches and pains and headaches. It could be dehydration and not enough nutrition. You could just be sick more often and not be able to deal with life and just sort of say, leave me alone. Even have more depressive or anxiety types of situations where you just say, just leave me alone. I can't deal with things. Okay. And so all of those things can be warning signs of nutritional imbalance within the body. And as Dr. Molly Roberts stated, your body will start by whispering. Then it'll start talking, and if you don't pay attention, it'll start yelling and shouting. But when it's yelling and shouting, you have an illness by that stage. But we assert here in the Savvy team that there have been some warning lights going off before you got sick. But you're not being trained to know the warning signs. They're not obvious. We've even had some experiences recently. I've had some experiences with family members where the doctor has basically said, from what I can see, you're doing well. Keep going. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. Everything looks good. And yet major things ensued afterwards. Because there were warning signs though, but not something that they felt that was medically relevant. Okay, so this is the interesting thing. There are subtle things. And here in the Savvy team, we want to encourage you to pay attention to the subtle warning lights going off on the dashboard, and then we can do something about that so that it doesn't eventuate in disease. And that's why we just love that Dr. Molly Roberts said that your body will start by whispering, then it'll start talking, and if you don't pay attention, it'll start yelling and shouting. But then you've got an illness. So what are some of these warning lights? Well, really, the warning lights that are going off on your dashboard: tiredness, waking up not feeling refreshed, feeling foggy and forgetful, not responding well to stress anymore, those sorts of things. Frequent illness, problems with your skin, hair and nails. These are all warning signs that you are running on empty in terms of your nutrient intake. And when this whole thing of all you need is a balanced diet, that advice is outdated at best, perhaps even incorrect advice in this day and age. So what we have to do is we have to really we have to look at a holistic perspective. So holistic health and well-being is where the whole person is focused on, not just the malady or the issue. This is what I was meaning when I said that we're not treating any issue. Okay, medicine treats the issue. What we look at is what you're deficient in. So the holistic health concept upholds that all aspects of people's needs, including their psychological, physical, and social, should be taken into account and seen as a whole. So here in the Savvy team, we do recognize that although we focus on things such as nutritional and physical, environmental and emotional and attitudinal and all those sorts of things, that we recognize that there are other things there, that there is a social component there. There is that, that emotional support and that sort of thing. And so that's what the community is all about. So many people that we find, even if they've been in hospital or whatever, they say, look, when I left hospital, I felt like they took good care of me, but then I left and I didn't have any information. They didn't really tell me what happened. They didn't tell me how I could get more support. And I felt really alone after and flying blind after leaving hospital. And that's the thing. There isn't in our emergency-based medical approach, there isn't the same sort of support structures. That there are some, but not truly community social types of support structures. And that's really what we're offering here in the Savvy team is so powerful. Not only are we putting together this holistic wellness and disease prevention support structure, but there's community there, community to tap in with and really be able to have people that are on the same page as you, helping each other out. So if you like the sound of spreading this sort of information even amongst your communities, then I would encourage you to really reach out to us and ask us to host a wellness Izzy's 123 community talk in your area, where one of our wellness guides can sort of educate the people in your community about these sorts of philosophies and what they can do to take control of their health and lifestyle. So just reach out to us. We're happy to talk about that. And look, if we don't have a wellness guide in your area, maybe we can talk, because the sort of benefit that you can create in your community, and maybe even generate a bit of an extra stream of income through our system, that could really help you in your wellness journey too. So yeah, if that interests you, then do let us know. But again, what I was talking about before is, are you simply attacking the symptoms, attacking the problem, attacking the disease, or are you looking to correct the underlying causes? So this illness wellness continuum, brought forward and put out by an early wellness advocate, Dr. John Travis, it really asserts that the treatment paradigm, whether it be even natural treatment paradigms or the typical medical model, is looking for the signs and symptoms to show up, or the disease, and to simply prevent disability and premature death. So basically, this sort of gets you to some neutral point where you're not sick. I like to call it the not sick point, but not the healthy, high-level wellness point. And the only way that you're going to reach that high level of wellness is by your own education, your own self-responsibility and growth, and moving forward with working with us as a community to reach that high level of wellness. So, that's the difference. But the great thing is that the wellness paradigm can be practiced alongside anything that you're currently doing in order to get past those symptoms. So it's not a competitive approach. It's really just helping you to go further. And, we've seen so many community members work with really good open-minded doctors that have said, look, well, it looks like you don't need this anymore. Let's take you off this medication. Let's take you off this medication. And that's the great thing. If you can find a good doctor to work with that sees that if you're taking control of your lifestyle, that you will no longer need the medication because the symptoms are going away. But understand that if nothing changes, you should never go off medication if you've seen no other change in your life. So, because if nothing changes, if you change nothing, nothing changes. So, therefore, you'll probably need medication for the rest of your life if you don't make any other changes. So, but that's the treatment paradigm. They're treating the problems that are going on in the body rather than looking for the root cause. So we're just encouraging you to always look for the root cause. And to really recognize this, that symptoms are not enemies to be destroyed, but sacred messengers who encourage us to take better care of ourselves. So, have you been misled? It's interesting that this particular book by a doctor, Dr. Ken Berry, he really he was wondering what should I really call this, and he thought about medical myths and that sort of thing, but he decided that he would call it Lies My Doctor Told Me, even though he's actually a medical professional himself. Lies my doctor told me. And yet, obviously, the underscore is medical myths that can harm your health. And he says that patients should be able to trust their doctors to be intellectually honest. That you, as a patient, you're not paying for good sounding random answers to your medical questions. And he also asserts, as we do, that you should be able to ask questions and not be flipped away. Just take it. So, for example, a family member of mine was told when asking questions, just take your medication or you'll die. I think that's terrible. I think that's terrible. Rather than answering the question, being told, just take it or you'll die. I just think that there's more to it than that. And what I'm so thankful for is that medical professionals such as Dr. Berry are actually coming out and saying that too. So sort of backing us up here in our community with what they said. And what he said is, I used to say these same myths that he highlights in here. He says, I used to say them when I was a fat and sick doctor. So it's only someone coming from within the system like that that can really, really speak as strongly on that. So here in the Savvy team, we're all outside of the system. So, we're just sharing our opinions to help you on your journey. Obviously, then you have to work with a medical professional for your own personal well-being. And so that's why that's the way our system works. But then you're responsible. So never go to your doctor and ask for permission. If you can't converse with your doctor, if you don't feel like you have open communication, then you find another doctor. And if you feel like you need some strength on that, some conviction around that, then I would read Lies My Doctor Told Me, because Dr. Berry firmly asserts that that's what you should do, and really is pretty scathing about doctors who are not open-minded, because he made that transition. He went from being, as he said, a fat, sick doctor to being healthy and well. So, maybe I'm pushing the envelope a little bit here, but I'm just quoting the news from Dr. Berry, and I'm encouraging you to think about that too. So when we think about it, he asserts that we've got to do the same as we do in the Eat Savvy diet, reduce carbohydrates, reduce packaged food, optimize more of the nutrient-dense food, and he asserts that doctors and practitioners have a fiduciary responsibility to give you correct advice, not to repeat the dogma. And this is the challenge. We have had a lot of this dogma being repeated. And the reason I'm putting this in here is one of the pieces of dogma is all you need is a balanced diet. And that balanced diet is the food pyramid. And that diet is basically based on a flawed bit of scientific evidence on the lipid hypothesis that cholesterol causes heart disease. And that's basically been disproven, essentially been disproven. And so what many professionals are seeing is that we're not going to see from the Heart Associate, the Heart Foundation or the government, we're not going to see them like doing what do they call it when the cars, when they withdrawal, can't think of the word. They're not going to do a recall of that information. They're just going to, many of these professionals just believe they're just going to start coming out and changing the guidelines gradually so that you don't notice. And then they'll say, yeah, we've always talked about not eating too many grains. Yeah, fat's not a problem. But we're still seeing that dogma, that myth put forward. So all you need is a balanced diet is outdated at best. Perhaps it's not even true. Perhaps it's bad advice, because we see that so many people are running on empty. So this whole issue of all you need is a balanced diet, ridiculous. Because what is a balanced diet anyway? So what we've seen across the board is that there are two fundamental or underlying causes of all poor health. Excessive toxicity. So excessive toxicity that you've absorbed from some form, environmental pollution, from endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment, from heavy metals, from pesticides or whatever. And this is causing an issue for the body. And this is the area of, for example, where they look at carcinogens. If you can be susceptible to cancer if you're exposed to carcinogens. This is looking at excessive toxicity that we're exposed to. And the second is that lack of nutrition. And so what we've seen in countless examples is that even if you reduce your toxicity level, you can dramatically improve your health and well-being. If you didn't even bother to decrease your toxicity level, but you increase your nutrition, you're helping the body in its ability to detoxify nonetheless. Remember what I talked about, excess minerals. Lots of minerals in the system can help your body create an alkaline detoxifying process. So what if we did both? What if we actually looked for all sources of toxins that we can legitimately eliminate and also look to improve our diet and supplements so that we get maximum nutrition, so that we could flip this graph around, reduce toxicity, and actually have more nutrition than we have toxicity. Then we'd reach optimal health and well-being. And that's what we assert here in the Savvy team. And so no matter what you're doing, no matter what course of action you're currently taking, that philosophy will start to stack the odds in your favor. So also a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Mark Hyman, who is another one who made the transition from a sick doctor to focusing on the typical methodology in medicine to a more of a functional approach. He believes that food is the biggest contributor globally to chronic disease and health and death. He says, I think it's important to focus on not only what to remove, so what toxins to decrease, too much sugar, processed fast foods, etc., but to focus on what to add. He says, for instance, fruits and vegetables should make up 80% of your diet, he asserts. Also, when we look at the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization's report on cancer, for example, I mentioned carcinogens before. Well, in a little bit of their information at one point, I found this, that they sort of asserted that diet was related to 50% of the causes of cancer. Well, hang on. So does this mean that just nobody's following the advice, or does this mean that the advice that we've been given has been wrong? So diet, 50%. We assert that it's not the diet, not the macronutrients. So understand this, it's not the carbohydrates and the fat and the protein, it's not the macronutrients as such. It's the micronutrients and the toxicity that's in our diet. Now, macronutrients do count, but it's more of the micronutrients. So it's really the lack of nutrition that we get from the diet. About 25% is from toxin exposure, so carcinogens and those sorts of things. Globally, about 25% comes from an infection or inflammation triggered by parasites and viruses, bacterial, fungal, and all those sorts of things. And they do believe that there's stress and there's a mental state, but it's too hard to test. So when we look at this, it's again, we're coming back to that same philosophy. If we were to increase nutrition and we were to decrease toxin exposure from all sources, we'd start to set ourselves up better. This is also what Dr. Weston Price found many, many years ago. So what he did as a dentist who was frustrated by the amount of cavities he was seeing in his clients in Cleveland, in the US, way back then, in the early 1900s, what he decided to go around and find, are there indigenous cultures? He believed it was the diet. He believed it was the Western diet that showed that was producing the dental cavities. So he took it upon himself, as new trade routes were opening up, etc., that he would jump on a boat and all that sort of thing, and he traveled all around the world looking for cultures that were actually locked off from Western civilizations, and looked at their diets, and they all had slightly different diets. So there wasn't any perfect diet, but they all had similarities right across the board. And guess what he found? He found that in every single, when he analyzed their foods, some of them ate only meat, some of them had fermented bread and cheese as their staple diet and dairy. Some of them, were hunter-gatherer cultures. And so they all had varied diets. But what he did find is that every one of them, in every case, they had at least 4 times the mineral content in their diet, or through natural supplements. And their natural supplements were fermented foods and the organ meats of the animal, for example, cod livers, beef liver, the heart. Their supplementation was the offal of the animal. So, and how much of that do we really eat in the Western culture? Not much. We eat just the simple muscle meats. We're only now starting to see more bone broths and that hitting the typical dietary philosophy. And that's another method of supplementing minerals and amino acids and vitamins and that sort of thing through bone broths. because the bones are breaking down and we're getting all that rich minerals from the bones, from bone broth. And so that's almost devoid in our typical culture. And yet in traditional cultures, that they never wasted any part of the animal. That was their natural supplement. So what Price found is that there were 4 times the mineral content in all of the diets and 10 times the fat-soluble vitamins. So this is vitamin A and vitamin D in their diets. Now, what he also found, vitamin D you may have heard of, obviously coming from the sun, but or can be transmuted in the skin from the sun. And this has now started to become more aware even in the medical profession. And so what Price found is that in the cultures that were more equatorial, so where there was sunshine all year round, they didn't have as much in their diet of vitamin D, but they were getting it from the sunshine. Those in the colder climates, they were the ones that they knew they had to eat the liver of the animal. They knew they had to eat the brains of the animal. They knew they had to eat all of those things to get, they didn't know what the nutrients were called, but they knew they had to get them from their diet. So where there was no sunshine, they ate the foods that supplied these nutrients. Where there was sunshine, it was converted in their skin. But they all had higher levels of minerals and vitamins in their system. That's a clue. That's a clue. And those people, what he was looking at, not the ones that had dental decay, he was seeing the ones that never cleaned their teeth and didn't have a cavity. What did they do? And had no disease. What did they do? And in every case, they had maximum nutrition and not many chemicals. That's why we assert that the fundamentals are for you. How could you reach a high level of wellness? Find every way of turning off the toxic tap, as we can glibly say, and find every way to increase the nutrition. So through diet and supplementation. And so not new news, because that's what Price found all those years ago. And the sorts of studies that he did can't be repeated. They can't be repeated because you can't find a culture living in their natural environment following their historic patterns. But there's actually plenty of research and plenty of books about the importance of increasing nutrition. They have seen that they've actually looked at the decline. So this is the US Department of Agriculture. Agriculturally, they know that our food is more deficient in minerals than it used to be. So, for example, they've seen an 80-year decline in the mineral content of an apple, just as one example. So you may have heard about the importance of magnesium, for example. Well, they've seen that there's a change, even going back to the 90s, not from 1914 to the early 90s, that there was an 82.7% decrease in the magnesium content in an apple, and 96% decrease in the iron content of an apple. So, that's when I said that, and it's the same thing with meats too, because if they're not grown naturally pasture-raised animals, then they're going to be deficient. If they're fed grains from the typical typical farming techniques, then they're deficient in minerals. The grain is deficient, and then the animals are deficient. So we need to find natural foods, and we need to find animals that are grass-fed, free range, and all those sorts of things, and include more of that in our diet. Then we include more bone broths and things. And so follow everything that if you follow what we've talked about in some of our other masterclasses, the Eat Savvy diet and everything, then you'll be stacking the odds in your favor from a dietary point of view. And then we encourage you to supplement. But we have a mineral MP3, so an audio on minerals, and I don't have anything set up for you to download it automatically. So just message us. So wherever you're listening to this particular, whether it's via the podcast or whether it's on the Facebook page or the blog, just probably best is to message us on Facebook and ask for the MP3 on minerals. It's a really powerful audio on the importance of minerals. Just say minerals MP3. Please send me the minerals MP3. Look, we know in plants, if you're a keen gardener, you know that there are certain signs of deficiencies in plants. Well, what about us as humans? we know that if there are discolorations in the leaves, that it can mean certain deficiencies. Now, in plants, yes, we have a tendency to just treat the deficiency with a simple mineral. But when you really think about it, and you're a keen gardener, we don't just use one artificial mineral. You actually use natural processes to put stuff back into the soil. So if it's nitrogen deficient, you don't just give it nitrogen, for example. You might use more mulch and those sorts of things, or you might use more, you might actually bring in compost to put these nutrients back in. You may use some mineral rock dust type of powder or whatever to balance the soil, or sweeten the soil if it's too sour, and those sorts of things. Well, this is the same sort of thing that we do, and that's what Price found in his research. But it's interesting too that Dr. Pottinger actually found in his research with cats that cats have different nutritional needs to us, but he actually found that the cats degenerated if they were fed a processed food diet. And if they degenerated, that it actually took a few generations for the offspring of the cats to come back to good health. So we owe it to the next generation so we owe it. So you owe it to your children and everything, really, especially if you haven't had children yet, to optimize your well-being. And if you've already had kids and everything, well, you do the best to get the nutrition into them so that they have healthier children. And so it's well known. So what Pottinger saw is that diseases developed in the cats when they were on these processed food diets. Well, the same sorts of things have actually been linked with humans. They've seen disease links with nutritional deficiencies. So just as an example, they've seen from the US studies, and it's not recent, but same thing is reflected nowadays, that heart conditions can be linked to deficiencies in minerals such as chromium, copper, magnesium, potassium, and selenium. That chronic bronchitis can be linked to mineral deficiencies of copper, iodine, iron, magnesium, selenium, and zinc. That even the ringing in the ears could be, so that the tinnitus or tinnitus can be from calcium deficiency, magnesium, zinc deficiency. So they've seen these things, they've linked it, and yet it's not. So the typical dogma that is being repeated is like all you need is a balanced diet. So we certainly do need supplements. Discretionary foods are foods that are high in energy but low in nutrients, okay? And so are not needed to meet nutrient requirements. And about 1/3 of Australians' energy comes from these foods, these discretionary foods that are full of energy, full of carbohydrates, fat, and everything, but they're low in nutrients. And so they're not meeting. So we're actually in a situation where we're overfed and undernourished. 9 in 10 adults aged 19 or over do not eat the recommended number of vegetables. And the problem is being this focus on grains and then saying fruits and vegetables. And it's vegetables. So 9 in 10 adults aged 19 or over do not eat the recommended number of daily serves of vegetables. And so men, looks like, men do pretty well with fruit and grains. As far as, look, this is without even asserting that the dietary recommendations are wrong. So this is 9 to 11 serves of grains, which we believe is not correct, okay? But so most men are eating enough fruits, and most of the kids, 9 to 13, are eating enough grains. But if you're older than that and watching this, chances are, according to all of the nutritional information, you are, according to the government, you are not eating enough fruits, vegetables, meat, and dairy to meet your needed requirements. I would assert that you don't need the grains that they have in the food pyramid. You could simply replace that with more vegetables and more of the meats and things like that. So ladies, you're not doing any better. You know, it's historically thought that men don't eat as well or whatever, but it's the same thing. It's exactly the same for women. Women are also not getting enough of the needed vegetables to get the nutrition. So we can all eat more, but let's face it, that's why we assert in the Savvy team that supplementation makes logical sense. Of course, improve your diet. Improve your diet is, of course, an important thing to do. That's why we have the Eat Savvy diet. Getting a more balanced diet, doing what the nutrition research has found, and upping your vegetable intake, upping the intake of meats and everything, down and decreasing the intake of the processed foods and the grains and all that sort of thing. But wouldn't supplementation make sense if it's so difficult for so many people to get nutrition? We believe so. So what happens to your body, since we're talking about running on empty, what happens to your energy generators, the mitochondria, when they have to run on empty? Well, the mitochondria are little energy converters in our cells, really, and mitochondria are very much lifestyle and nutrient dependent. And so the problem is that they're also very sensitive to damage. So this is the challenge. They're not getting enough nutrition and they're getting too much toxicity. So what we need to become is not a hypochondriac, but a mitochondriac. So research shows that we can boost our metabolism. We can improve the energy that we have by protecting and boosting our mitochondria. And that's really what our Wellness Easy as 123 is really all about. So Bruce Ames at the University of California, Berkeley, he did a lot of research with rats. In a series of studies, he gave old tired rats who wouldn't get on the treadmill anymore. Okay, so these rats wouldn't get on the treadmill. They wouldn't do what they're supposed to do. They wouldn't run. They weren't interested in exercise. Are you interested in exercise? He gave them nutritional supplementation to boost their metabolism. And in only a month of supplementation, the rats began acting younger. They got on the treadmill in and of themselves. They swam long distances. They could be bothered finding the cheese and doing the puzzles and all that sort of thing. They acted like younger, healthier rats in 1 month of supplementation. This is what we mean by it just doesn't make any logical sense not to supplement your diet when we're deficient in nutrients today. So that's what he did with these poor old tired rats. So if you feel like a little bit of a tired old rat and you're not getting on the treadmill and you're not swimming and you're not interested in finding things in the maze anymore, you're just not interested, then maybe supplementation could help. And it could be as quick as just a month where it could make that difference. Now, obviously different animals respond differently and all that sort of thing, and it depends on what you're being bombarded with, how much stress you're under. But we do see very quick results in our community when people follow our Savvy 90 program, the 90 nutrients I'll introduce you to in just a moment. So, again, supplementation can make a difference looking at this. Now, we talked about exposure to chemicals. So in this instance, these are genetically identical mice. Now, their mothers were both exposed to endocrine disrupting chemicals. So what's the difference? Why did one offspring end up obese and the other one didn't? They were both equally exposed and they were both genetically identical. Well, the mother of this one received a normal diet without supplementation, and the mother of this mice, and this wasn't just one isolated incident, this is an example of this. This mother received exposure to chemicals and supplementation. So what the research showed, that enough supplementation can offset the damaging effect of lifestyle exposure to chemicals. So our question here in the Savvy team is, can you afford to ignore supplements when you don't even know what you've been exposed to or what your mum was exposed to? That's why we assert that you do have a need for supplementation to really deal with this lack of nutrition issue. And that is why here in the Savvy team, you'll hear us saying wellness, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, or it could be as easy as 1, 2, 3. So to achieve optimal well-being, slow aging, feel your best, of course, you need to look to decrease your toxin exposure. And that is not just external exposure through diet and through your home exposure to chemicals or environment or breathing in fumes and all that sort of thing, but it's also natural toxins from the diet. They can be man-made things in packaged foods, but they can also be natural inflammatory plant toxins as well. And the more you can eliminate those, the better your body will function. We need to increase nutrition and we need to optimize the body systems. And that's what our holistic wellness philosophy is all about. So we do have a free online class, as I mentioned, that's called Wellness It's Not That Hard, and where we go through really this easy as 1, 2, 3 philosophy. But let's come back to this whole issue and think logically about nutrition and plants. So any of you keen gardeners out there, if we think of our body as like a plant and we think of all the systems of our body, the circulatory system, the endocrine system, our nervous system, our lymphatic system, reproductive system, immune system, digestive system, and all that sort of thing. Now, if we think of them as branches of a tree, it's logical that they're all nourished from a holistic perspective. Yet medically, they're seen as individual systems. That's the challenge that we're seeing. They're seen as individual systems. If there's a problem with the circulatory system, we operate on that system. If there's a problem with the digestive system, like inflammation in the bowel, we remove that inflamed part, or we try to medicate it just to calm down the inflammation. We don't look holistically. Yet if you're dealing with plants, if you have an indoor plant, for example, and it's looking diseased, what's the first thing you do? You think, maybe it's not getting enough sunlight. Well, maybe you're not getting enough natural sunlight. Or if for example, what about water? We think, am I giving it enough water? The first two things we think about is the plant getting enough light? Is it getting enough water? Well, I would assert that you need to ask yourself the same thing. So to optimize all of your body's systems, we need to start going back to the root causes. Am I getting enough light? Am I getting enough water? In terms of the soil, the plant, we would then say, well, we need to nourish the soil. We need to look at what's going on in the soil. And so what does the soil need? Well, the soil needs all of the nutrients. Well, what are the nutrients that are in soil? There's enzymes, there's actually probiotics, there's minerals in there. Well, what is it that we need in our soil, which is what we have in our diet? We need all these same sorts of things. We need enzymes, minerals, amino acids, vitamins, probiotics, all of these sorts of things. Okay? And so when we think about it logically here, we would increase the nutrition that we're feeding the plant. Well, that's what we need to do for ourselves. We need to improve our diet and we need to supplement to get all the nutrients that we need in our soil. We need to decrease the chemical exposure. If the plant's not doing well, we'd go, well, are the leaves clogged? Is there too much dust on the leaves? Is it being exposed to some spray that's damaging its health? Well, it's the same for us. If our skin is clogged because we're using all the wrong sorts of chemicals on the skin and our natural skin respiration isn't working, then that's going to impact our health. So, where you're more like a plant than you really thought you were. So just think about it. The next time you're looking at a plant, looking at its disease, think, how am I different? How am I the same? So what I'd like to do is play for you now an audio from Dr. Mark Donahoe, really asserting that it's the same thing for us. So this is some thoughts coming from a doctor really focused on more of the functional medicine. So let's have a listen to Dr. Mark Donahoe here.
If we had focused on nutrition from the early years of this century, if we had really focused on what is high quality nutrition, optimizing function of people, rather than what's the minimum you can get by with nutrition, what's the minimum daily requirements that if you maintain it won't allow you to get sick with a disease, that we could have created a healthy population, and that approach could have contributed years of quality life rather than have contributed nothing. We have put up with nutrition as just being what's required to get by, what's the basic fuel, how low can you go before disease starts to occur. And in eating away at our food, in processing of it, in the use of pesticides, in forgetting to keep the food clean, we've in fact contributed to health problems such as asthma, respiratory disease, degenerative disorders, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, We've contributed the so-called diseases of civilization because we've failed to notice that clean food, appropriate nutrition, high levels of the nutrients in the food naturally available to us are essential for normal function. If any aspect of your nutritional bank account runs out early, you're almost certain to become sickened at that period of time. It does mean that if we as doctors thought back on it and looked at nutrition as an insurance against future illness, that we would have been able to keep people well even during the times of their crises. Doing simple, low-cost things with supplements ahead of illness minimises the risk of illness and optimises outcomes for the people who take their health seriously. And so I don't think that there's anybody who does not need supplements or who does not need something to optimise their health. Can you get by with it? Yes, you can. If you're prepared to put up with premature death from cancer, if you're prepared to put up with chronic ill health, if you're prepared to put up with never really feeling well, then you can get by with those foods, but you're not going to live well. You're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be resilient, wake up in the mornings and feel energetic and like you want to keep on going, get the day done and then move on to something else. But when you go that extra step and you're after really good quality of health, then I think supplements have a very, very important part to play.
And that's exactly what we feel here in the Savvy team. So we thank Dr. Donohoe for those sorts of words. They're coming from, from a doctor's perspective. So minerals, supplements, all of those we can really see are necessary. Now, in plants have the ability to manufacture their own, their own antioxidants, their own protection mechanisms. And so do we too, but we also absorb a lot of these protection mechanisms from plants and from antioxidants in our diet. So let's have a look at antioxidants here. Now, you may have heard of the antioxidants such as the vitamin and mineral antioxidants. You might have heard of vitamin E, vitamin C, zinc, and selenium. These are quickly flushed from the body, so they're really only effective in our body for up to 3 hours. So we need to get these regularly from our diet, and and supplementation. So these are sort of like daily supplementation types of things. We need to have. We don't produce our own vitamin C, and that's really scurvy was considered to be. They originally thought scurvy was a hereditary disease because people would go off to, hundreds of years to see. And, granddad died of scurvy, great-grandfather died of scurvy, dad died of scurvy. It must be hereditary, right? And then they found out that like 50% of the crews would die from scurvy on a voyage. And then they discovered it was simply a vitamin C deficiency, and it was so easy to treat. So hundreds of years of medical infighting about what the cause was, and it turned out, and even after they identified it as a deficiency disease, there was still medical infighting. So that's what we're saying here. Let's let them fight about all of the real, let's just supplement and optimize our own well-being while they fight about what the real causes of all these diseases are. Let's not enter into the dogma and the fights there. Let's do something about our own well-being, because a lot of the information comes out, but it takes decades and decades to be truly proven by the types of double-blind, placebo-controlled studies that science-based medical people want. Okay, so it's so long. You could be enjoying the benefits of things for so long before they're so-called proven. 400 years is a long time to put up with dying of scurvy when it was identified that it was a vitamin C deficiency, and they just refused to believe that it was that simple. Could we be doing the same thing today with many deficiency diseases? Anyway, I digress. So looking at that, we need to get these in our diet, okay? And so the Eat Savvy diet will help you to optimize those sorts of things, but supplementation just makes logical sense. So that, as Dr. Donohoe said, so that deficiencies aren't there. Because if at time of your illness there was no deficiency, your body would bounce back. So then we move to the second generation antioxidants, sort of like, when you think about it, the granddaddies of antioxidants were these original ones discovered, and then there's the next generation discovered. Now, the OPCs, or oligomeric proanthocyanidins, discovered in many plant things. These are, for example, from grape seed extract, from pine bark extract. these are 20 times more powerful than vitamin C and actually recycle vitamin C in the body. So even if you're not getting a lot of vitamin C, if you're taking the OPCs, you're actually enhancing the efficacy of vitamin C. And 50 times more powerful than vitamin E. Okay, and so these can have a residual effect in the body. So stay in your body for up to 3 days. And this is why if you've been part of the Savvy team and you've used some of our recommended OPC supplements, you'll know, for example, on the label dosage, it says take 4 for the first 3 days and then just cut back to a maintenance dose of 2 a day. What that's meaning is that if you build your level up in your system to a high protection level in the first few days, even just with a maintenance dose of a couple, you'll still maintain that high protection level. Okay? Understand that? So that's what's happening there. These have a residual effect, but if you forget for a few days and come back and everything, it's not going to have the same impact because it's not keeping the levels high in your body. And so vitamin C, by the way, in these cultures, you might think, well, hang on, how come the Eskimos, and for example, get little or no fresh foods? Well, that's because they eat the liver of all of the fish and the animals, and that's rich in vitamin C. So it's again back to organ meats. Many of those people in the colder climates actually supplemented their diet by eating all of the organ meats because that was rich in some of these vitamins. All right, so then that brings us to the other notable second generation antioxidants can be ginkgo biloba, you might have heard of. That's good for the brain. Coenzyme Q10, good for the heart. Lycopene, good for many different aspects in the body. This is extracted from tomatoes, for example, but also particularly important for the prostate. Rosemary is just an amazing antioxidant that can also recycle some other antioxidants and has sort of like a protective cascading effect in protecting against free radical damage. Green tea as well. These are all notable sort of second generation antioxidants, but they're not effective for 3 days. It's not quite the same. You do need to get these regularly. It's not like the OPCs. Then there's the third generation antioxidants, and the curcuminoids can be effective in the body for up to a few days as well. And so curcuminoids extracted from the turmeric, 60 times more powerful than vitamin C and 150 times more powerful than vitamin E. So pretty powerful things. And again, one of the latest antioxidants that have really been discovered in this generation, we could say, is astaxanthin. And this can be extracted from krill. You don't need to take it here in this. You can take it as a separate supplement. We don't tend to. We recommend just to supplement with a blended krill oil and other seed oil supplement, and you'll get 10 times more effective than beta carotene, and 500 times more powerful than vitamin E. So if your cardiologist has been talking about the importance of getting some vitamin E, does he or she know about astaxanthin and its impact and how powerful it can be? So these are all nutrients that form part of our 90 nutrient protocol. But if you want to read up on some of these antioxidants, we have a post on the blog on the 17 powerful antioxidants to help you reduce illness, slow aging, and support longevity. One of the great things is that most of these antioxidants are contained in just one formula that we use. So you don't have to take 17 different pills. So that's a really good thing. But look, if you've been on some of our recent events where I talked about the work of Dr. Dale Bredesen in his The End of Alzheimer's, he said that it's no longer about monotherapeutics. The old medical model was about just looking for what's the one thing that could treat the issue. He said 21st century medicine is about programmatics. Well, we agree, Dr. Bredesen, and that's what we do to help you. We have all these wellness programs really to help you have turnkey programmatics to help you to optimize your well-being. And in terms of nutrition, the Savvy 90 plan is what we use to optimize your all-round wellness, just from a supplementing your diet point of view. So if you're not following any specific action plan, then this would be what we would suggest you do. And so the core plan, for example, uses vitamin and macro mineral supplementation, trace mineral supplementation, antioxidants to help support your cells' defenses, an essential fatty acid blend, so it's good for your brain, heart, eyes, joints, and even helps with your cholesterol and triglyceride levels, just helping your lipid profile there. Green superfood blend for detoxification, alkalizing, and all those sorts of things. And then maybe you could look at some of the other things perhaps too for your gut, probiotics and all that sort of thing. So that's the core plan, but we do have a basics plan for those on a tighter budget. And we also have the Savvy 90 Ultimate for those wanting the absolute enhanced support. But remember, look, if you want more information, ask us for that minerals MP3, because that'll really give you really set you up to understand the importance of why we say trace minerals are the first thing to look at. So maybe you feel a little bit like our friend here that, okay, I think I need the Savvy 90 plan because I think I'd be unstoppable if I could just get started. If you have been depleted, feeling run down, not waking up feeling refreshed, and sort of getting sick more often all of a sudden, these are all warning signs of potential depletion. So, and even if you don't notice significant differences, understand that the cells of your body and your mitochondria, they're noticing the difference. It may take a while before that, before you feel different. Okay, the nutrition is doing its job even if you don't feel the difference straight away. And this is what, if you heard Dr. Donahoe, he said, if we can think of nutrition as an insurance policy against ill health, then we'll be better off. And that's really, we see that it does more. It helps make you feel good in the now for most people. But yes, indeed, it is also an insurance policy. And the thing with insurance is that we actually pay for it. We invest in insurance and we hope we'll never need it. We invest, we pay for our house insurance, but hope that it'll never burn down. Our house will never burn down. We pay for car insurance, but we hope that we'll never have an accident. We pay for health insurance, but we hope that we'll never need it. We pay for a life insurance, but we don't plan to die too soon. So it's the same thing with the nutritional insurance policy. We invest in it, hoping that we don't need it, but the great thing is that we do, our body utilizes it each and every day nonetheless. So it's sort of like a win-win. It is sort of more like the, some of the modern, health plans where we get the benefit now, but we also have the insurance for in times of need. So look, here in the Savvy team, we really do believe that there are 4 pieces of the puzzle to help you reach a high level of wellness. We went through the concepts, the easy as 1, 2, 3 concepts. But for your best wellness journey, you're going to want a plan. You're going to want some specific solutions. It's so handy to have guidance along the way, and having a community to tap in with makes it more fun and enjoyable. And that's what we do here for you in the Savvy team. So definitely request an invitation into our community. So if you just visit savvy-team.com/join-in, or that's hyphen. So savvy-.com, depending on how you refer to it, savvy-.com/join-in. And just request an invitation, fill out the how can we help form that's there, and let's get you started on your journey. So look, if you have any questions about the material that we've covered, or you want to take action or whatever, that's what we're here for. So do reach out to us. We'll be glad to help. And look, if there's something that you want to improve about your health and wellness, I believe that we can definitely guide you there. We've had countless community members just transform their health and wellness through following some of these steps. So you could be next. Look, I just saw some of the comments coming through, and that's great. I particularly liked Paul's comment here about, I know a few old rats that need to chew on this talk. I was talking about the old tired rats that once they got nutrition, 1 month, and they were feeling like young rats again. So yes, if you're an old tired rat, then you could be back on deck in no time. And so yes. Just checking out some of your comments. Look, if you do, and of course, even if you're catching the replay, if you have any comments and something that you would like to to know more about, then please do share with us. Linda here saying investing in the best quality supplements is the very best insurance money can buy. Yep, indeed. Indeed. So congratulations for being with us here again. Let me show you this important notice. Everything that we've been talking about, of course, does reflect my own personal research and experience. So if you have any question, do discuss this with your healthcare provider. So look, I really feel that this is an important thing, that health and wellness is a choice. We talk about it in terms of an insurance policy, but each and everything that you do each day actually changes your destiny. It changes the expression of your genetics. So every little change you make, even what we said in the quick tip, if you just drink some more water and get healthy salt every day, that could change the trajectory of your wellness. If you tap in and follow just the free Eat Savvy diet and the 12 points on getting started on that, that could totally change the trajectory of your life. But then if you move towards doing the 70-90 plan or something like that, then you too could move from being an old tired rat to being a young one on the treadmill. So, but it's never too early and it's never too late to really start a supplement regime, in my opinion. So thanks for being with us for the healthy side of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. If you have just joined us, it's Corey Sievers here. Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. And we're going to jump on into the Wealthy and Wise segment of the show. And it's actually somewhat of an extension of what we've already been talking about. But here in the Savvy team, we help you enjoy improved health and lifestyle. And I talked before about, in this session, we're going to be dealing with your most valuable asset. So what might your most valuable asset be? A bit of food for thought here. Your body will be around a lot longer than that expensive handbag. Or, your skin has to last a lot longer than that latest fashion, the latest fashion clothing, or your home, or your car, or whatever. So investing in your most valuable asset is the most important investment that you will make to be wealthy and wise, and that is investing in yourself. Now, whether that be investing in yourself from the point of view of the personal growth types of things and the mental change things that we talk about here in the Savvy team, we're always talking about personal development, and here in the Wealthy and Wise side of the show, we're always talking about personal growth and goal setting and self-improvement and personal development. But whether that personal development is improving upon your well-being by investing in yourself from supplements and looking after yourself from a nutritional regime point of view, or whether it be investing in your mind by feeding it good material, good books, positive events, tapping in with seminars that we have, for example. We're planning on doing whatever we can that we used to do in the offline world, as much for you as we can in the online arena. So we have personal growth events, for example, that focus around goal setting and the science of getting rich, and the programs such as a Man Thinketh. And we have a workshop where we did a process called the list to help you get on top of your life. And we have the Design Your Destiny program that we had. We've had so many different holistic, the Candy Effect program, where we really looked at gratitude and how that can sweeten your life. And we've done so many different programs, but these have all been, locally, groups of people meeting and that sort of thing. So we've got our thinking caps on about what we can do for you in the virtual world to tap in. But again, you've got to tap in. It's investing in yourself. It does take time. It takes time for us to put it all together, even this show every week, but it's an investment. We see it as an investment in our community and helping you make change. And so we encourage you to see it as an investment in yourself. Let me just share with you, you've probably heard it before if you've been on any of our shows, but Bruce Lipton talking about the importance of this whole process of epigenetics, and that's really investing in yourself. So let me just roll this thought from Bruce Lipton about epigenetics.
My name is Bruce Lipton, and I'm a former research scientist. My history was based on cloning stem cells. A lot of people think stem cells are a new understanding in science, but I was cloning stem cells 43 years ago in 1967. And through my research, I found a different path in understanding medicine and health with a different view on genetics, which is now called epigenetics, the new science. In school, most people learn the science of genetics, which is the belief that genes control our traits. This science is really based on the fact that we get our genes from our mother and father at the moment of conception, and that these genes at that moment of conception actually will determine the rest of our lives in regard to our physical, emotional, and behavioral characteristics. A new science is called epigenetics. And epigenetics is an understanding that genes are not self-actualizing, meaning genes do not turn on and off. Genes are just blueprints. And the significance of that is that in order to engage a blueprint, it's not the blueprint's activity, it's the contractor's activity, the one who reads the blueprint that controls the blueprint. So in epigenetics, it's a science of how environmental information selects the genes and can modify the readout of the genes. And this becomes very significant because in genetic control, the old story, we are victims of our genetics. And the new story, epigenetics, because we can change the readout of the genes, we can then become masters of our genetic. And this becomes important because we actually control our health with our beliefs, our perceptions, and our attitudes about life.
So that's pretty powerful when you really realize that you are more in control than you realize. So look, this is the thing, that any action can change the trajectory of your life. So even just listening to this show and being part of this and being part of the Savvy Team community can totally change things for you. Just from an epigenetic point of view, just one little change can totally alter your destiny, we could say. Heavy stuff, but it's true. And that's proven with this science of epigenetics. And so even if you feel more hopeful about your future health and well-being from being part of the show, that's going to change the readout, and you'll progress. You'll be more likely to progress forward. But if we can also work together and change some of these underlying things, these triggers, then we can dramatically change the readout, and you will be better for it. So, this leads us to this whole topic that I was talking about before, about holistic wellness. And so, when we're thinking about what what Bruce Lipton was talking about there, then holistic wellness is so important. And this is where it is important. Not only the things that you're exposed to, not only your nutrition, because that changes the readout, it changes the expression of your genetic potential, but also even feeling like you have a central purpose in life. And, this has been an interesting thing where so many people who become part of our community they're so thankful that they want to pay that forward. The movie Pay It Forward, where little Trevor McKinney, he drew up on the board there, he said, if I helped 3 people with a needed favor and they paid it forward and helped 3 other people, and everyone just kept looking to help other people, he said, we could change the world. This is, obviously it's just a movie, but nevertheless, that's it. That's it. And this is why we say, look, if you know that our wellness is easy as 1, 2, 3 philosophy could help and transform your community, then invite us to do a talk in your community. And one of our wellness guides can do that for you and really help to transform and put you in touch with the specific solutions and brands that we work with, and so that you have steps to take. So that's really why holistic wellness. And what I was saying there is that sometimes just having that purpose, feeling like that not only can you make a difference in your health and life, but also those around you, that really opens up a sense of community and a sense of belonging and a sense of contribution. So since we're talking here about this holistic wellness philosophy, I wanted to discuss the safety of complementary wellness products. And, because it's interesting that that it's sort of, many people in the medical side of things assert that somewhat of the wellness side of things is not scientific. And that's a bit ridiculous when you actually start to look at the things that are actually reported in medical journals. And also, if you're smart enough to actually read the research, for example, we see news reports that say, taking antioxidants is useless, for example. And then when you actually look at the research, they used, for example, synthetic beta carotene in the wrong dosage so that it wouldn't have had any therapeutic effect. So for no space of time. I mean, and so if you read with research, you can't just read the conclusions, and many physicians only read the conclusion. And yet when you read the actual full research paper, you find out, which is tedious. I agree, tedious, but it helps you go, hang on, where did they get that conclusion from? Because of the findings in the actual research. So this is where you as a consumer, it's very difficult because there are vested interests out there. So, you just got to be, that's why we encourage you to take self-responsibility and learn and take control yourself. So if you've heard about, the safety of complementary medicine, like one of the things, if you've heard of Philip Day's a researcher and educator in the area of holistic wellness as well. And one of the things he said that in one of his seminars is that if you manage to die from complementary wellness products, if it's not an allergy or whatever that you ignored, then it's not me saying this, he said this, Philip Day. He said, if you manage to die from taking complementary medicine, then you're too stupid to live anyway. Because you must have done something stupid like take 3 bottles of something, or intentionally take something that you're allergic to, or some dumb thing. Because the likelihood of death is basically minimal. Let me show you what he actually means here. Now I'm going to show you actual research here and a bringing together of much research from a variety of Australian and government data points here and reports. So this is looking at the societal versus individual risk in Australia related to a lot of these different components here. So for example, if we look at the sliding scale arrows there, this is increasing risk. So as we go up, there's an increasing societal risk, and along the bottom, it's an increasing risk to you as an individual. Now, it's important to note too, when we're talking about this, is that with medication, many medications, they actually have what's called an NNT number, and that's the number needed to treat. And what that means is, take, for example, cholesterol medication, the most widely prescribed and overprescribed, in my opinion, medications. It has when you look at the numbers, and it's NNT number, meaning the number needed to treat before one person gets results, I think it's about 300. So 300 people have to receive medication before one person is helped from a heart attack. And those people have had to suffer from debilitating effects. So this is difficult when you really understand it. So if you're taking medication because you've been told it will prevent this, like let's take cholesterol medication. If you're taking cholesterol medication because you've been told it will prevent a heart attack, that is only statistically relevant. It will not necessarily help you. And yet you think it will help you. But your personal lifestyle change, your change in diet, your change in nutrition, your change in exercise will help you. It won't statistically help other people. And this is where statistics can be misrepresented to you as an end user. So that's why I'm showing you this, because it's investing in your most valuable asset is very powerful. And we're talking here about the importance of changing your mindset, investing time to be on training such as this, investing money to be on nutritional supplements. So down there in the bottom left-hand corner, complementary medicines, the risk of death is too small to print. So it's so minuscule that taking any complementary medicine will not provide any risk to society or risk to you as an individual. So let's move to this. So the lightning dot. So lightning, being struck by lightning, is too small to print. But you're more likely to be struck by lightning than to have a damaging effect from complementary medicines. So how likely are you to be struck by lightning? Not very likely. So in other words, it is very safe for you to supplement your diet. In fact, statistically, you are more likely to drown in a bathtub than have any damaging effect from a supplement. You are more likely to die, far more likely, 100 times or more likely to die from horse riding than complementary medicines. You're more likely to die from an acute food reaction than any complementary medicine. You are more likely to die from unintentional poisoning from a pharmaceutical than from any complementary medicine. You're more likely to have far more likely to have a traffic accident than die from complementary medicine. You're far more likely to have a workplace accident than any damaging effect from complementary medicine. You are far, far, far more likely to have a preventable adverse drug reaction in a hospital that caused you to die than from taking complementary medicine. In fact, you are thousands of times more likely to die from a preventable medical injury inside a hospital than from taking complementary medicines. So when you start to think about all of that, they are very, very, very safe. The complementary medicines it's very safe, and supplementing is like that insurance policy. It just makes absolute logical sense, certainly in my opinion. I'm just looking for, before we wrap up here, I'm looking for more data here to share with you this. Yeah, I worked out some of the actual prevalence about, and maybe I'll share that with you on a blog post or something, that about how many times more likely you were. That was a pictorial representation of it, but I was wanting to give you the actual numbers of the comparative things. But really think about that. So the risk of injury is so small, but it's even less than being struck by lightning. So we really do assert that to invest in your most valuable asset through supplementation makes logical sense, especially when you think of, the old saying from Benjamin Franklin that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, unfortunately, in this day and age of diseases, and even when you look at the risk, if you let yourself degenerate so that you have a disease that needs medical intervention, when we look at that risk that you're more likely to die in a hospital from a preventable medical injury than you are from anything else, from a traffic accident, a workplace accident, a horse accident, or whatever, then you sort of don't really you want to avoid any of the medical interventions if need be, of course. And any good doctor would assert that, yes, if you can avoid drugs and surgery, then that is wise. And that's why I like to rejig this particular comment from Benjamin Franklin to this, that an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of intervention. Because in a lot of cases, it's not really cure, it's just interventional tactics. It's intervening with the medication because you've let yourself go. It's intervening with the surgical intervention because of you've got clogged arteries, or you have to have an operation for whatever, rampant inflammation in the body. So an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of intervention. So I hope you found that particular thought process valuable, and we just encourage you here to invest in your most valuable asset, and that is you. So any self-improvement, nutrition, dietary changes, personal growth, tapping in with the community, being thinking about how can I improve my life, that will be the best investment you will ever make. So that's it from me here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. I would encourage you to share with us your inspiration and any insights, anything that you've got, any light bulb moments that came from being part of the show. And if you've already had a success story by following even if it's a little bit of advice, we would love to know. Please share with us any of your success stories. And do let us know, how can we help you? And of course, if you're not part of our wellness community, then just request an invitation. Do the How Can We Help form, and let's help you come up with a plan. Because if there's something you'd like to improve about your health and vitality, or even your money and lifestyle, then we can help. For your best journey, you'll need a plan, you'll need some solutions, you'll want some guidance along the way, and you'll want community just to make it more fun. And that's what we do for you here in the Savvy team. So request an invitation today, and I'd just like to say thanks for joining us here on the show. So until next time, it's Corey Sievers here with the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show, encouraging you to be savvy. All the best. We'll catch you again next time.